Welcome to Rogue Reader. My name is James and I love reading Star Wars books.
I am also James.
And this is my wife Priscilla, and she's here for me to share my passion of Star Wars books with her.
Yes.
So today we are finishing up the last original trilogy novelization, Return of the Jedi by James Kahn.
And we did not do this all on the same day, and we are not wearing the same clothes.
No, it's different. Just as a quick recap, the first one, A New Hope, was a very interesting read. It was very different, hard to describe. Empire Strikes Back was better, much more akin to a modern novel, and now we're going to see how the last one is here. I am doing these novelizations because they're quick and easy to do episode-wise while I go through my backlog of Star Wars books, and once I catch up on those, I'll get back into doing these a bit more regularly with the other books. This was published in May 12th, 1983. The movie came out
they're all in May.
I think May 4th I think it's all Star Wars month.
Well, and I think you said April for the last book, and then it came out in May, I think, the second one.
Oh yeah, movie. May, and the first one came out in May. Yeah, they're all in May. But yeah, it was published in May 12th. And the film came May 25th. So this still came out before the movie, but just like a week before.
Were people expecting to read these in the time span before the movie was out?
I don't know what the science is of why a book comes out first or how they decide that. But it's short. It's the shortest before a movie, but still people got to read the ending and see the redemption of Anakin before the film came out. There were still some people that were going to get to know that, James Kahn wrote this. In his life experience, he's been an ER doctor, a novelist, a TV writer, producer, a songwriter. He's done a lot, and how he got this job is actually very interesting.
So, I was gonna say his name just sounds familiar in a lot of things I've watched or listened to.
You may have seen it. So
yeah,
he was working in the ER, and he got a call from Kathleen Kennedy, who's of course head of Lucas now, but at the time she was working with Steven Spielberg on E.T. And she was asking, is there anyone there who can show us how to resuscitate an alien? So they wanted to get people to the show, how would you resuscitate an alien for E.T.? So he went with some other doctors down to the set of E.T. to as a consultant to show them. He met Steven Spielberg, and he had just written his own first book. And he just took a chance and he gave it to Steven Spielberg, and he said, hey, I think this might make a good movie.
Balls.
Yeah. And what ended up happening is Spielberg called him back and said, hey, I need someone to write the novel for Poltergeist, the novelization of Poltergeist.
No, he didn't.
I need it due in a month. Do you want the job? And he took it. So he ended up writing the novelization for Poltergeist for Steven Spielberg. He wrote other novelizations. I think he wrote some of the Indiana Jones ones. And when it came time for George Lucas and he was looking for someone to write the novelization for this one, Spielberg recommended James Kahn to him. And that's how he got the job.
See, that industry is tumultuous, as we talked about in the last one, but there are bright spots in it where people are just there for each other.
Yeah, it's a really nice story, and he wrote a memoir, I think, about it called I think it's My Jedi Memoir, A Double Life.
James Kahn wrote this memoir?
Yeah. And I actually want to pick it up because the story sounds interesting, so I want to get it. But yeah, he wrote a memoir about this experience and stuff.
That's beautiful.
This is based on the third draft screenplay of the script. James Kahn has said in interviews and some earlier drafts of this book, he had made up a chapter about Leia on Alderaan and her backstory, but George cut it. And there was also a chapter about Leia remembering scenes of being tortured in A New Hope that George Lucas also cut.
Yeah, because I think she's still a young woman, so I can't imagine how that would have looked.
He said that when it came to differences, Steven Spielberg was okay with James Kahn putting a lot of his own stuff in it. So when he did novelizations for Spielberg, he would write a lot of his own ideas into it. He said George Lucas wasn't as keen on that as Spielberg was, so there were some things he would
I think it's obvious.
Oh yeah, and his introductions and things.
Yeah.
This was the original cover, which was also one of the first poster for the movie.
This one looks recognizable because of the lightsaber, to me at least. Well, it's really blurry, yeah, but the price looks to be a single digit dollar. But I do see the screenplay, James Kahn. George Lucas is in there twice. And there's a 8-page color insert, which I doubt this one has.
Not on my Kindle. And not on
Or
this.
yeah.
And yeah, of course, the new cover, which has Vader's face. Same style. They're all pretty cool.
Yeah, I noticed it's always on the right side, and the left side, it's their face.
Yeah. All right, so just on to the things that stood out to me as I was reading this. Not gonna, like the other ones, I'm not gonna go over the whole plot because it's just Return of the Jedi, but just the things that stood out to me as I was reading it. When they go to Jabba's palace, C-3PO and R2-D2, and R2-D2 is refusing to play the message he has stored for like Jabba's like second in command, and C-3PO apologizes to him. In the book, it says describe that C-3PO smiled apologetically at him.
He smiled.
Yeah, that's just funny because obviously
he has
no expression. I don't think that's an error. I think this is the author's clever way of writing how C-3PO thinks how he's doing. Like, you know, like I'm gonna smile even though like nothing happens.
Just a FYI, this has less pages than the second one.
How many pages?
188.
Wow. All right, so one annoying thing about this book is that the author, he will spell out all of like R2-D2's beeps and Chewbacca's roars.
What do you mean
He'll have like roar, like he'll spell out what they're saying when they're just not
like the enunciation.
Yeah,
that doesn't bother me.
It bothers me. It takes up a lot of time. Like we don't need to see that.
So that means out of the 198 pages, it's like 50 pages worth of
beep boop beep boop. Beep, boop. Okay, I want to read Jabba's description. The description of Jabba in this one.
And obviously they use different authors, so they all have different writing styles.
Yeah, exactly.
But this one was like acclaimed and was sought out.
Yes.
From another director to another.
All right, let me describe. Here's how Jabba is described here. I just like the description. His head was 3 times human size, perhaps 4. His eyes were yellow, reptilian. His skin was like a snake's as well, except covered with a fine layer of grease. He had no neck, but only a series of chins that expanded finally into a great bloated belly, engorged to bursting with stolen morsels. Stunted, almost useless arms sprouted from his upper torso. The sticky fingers of his left hand languidly wrapped around the smoking end of his water pipe. He had no hair. It had fallen out from a combination of diseases. He had no legs. His trunk simply tapered gradually to a long, plump snake tail that stretched along the length of the platform like a tube of yeasty dough. His lipless mouth was wide, almost ear to ear, and he drooled continuously. He was quite thoroughly disgusting. I just love that.
I threw up in my mouth. It's that meme where it's like, ew, that girl. I'll probably send it to you later. But it's pretty accurate. It almost gave me the same feel as like how disgusting Pizza the Hut is in Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Like it.
That's the feeling.
Yeah, it's just gross. And Jabba the Hutt is no exception to being gross. He's so gross.
All right, another and a little just annoying thing with this is that anything involving Lando is always ascribed to like gambling or gambling puns or things like that. So, and it's just constant. So it's like Lando, he's like, rescuing Han was an unbeatable bet, and I can't resist unbeatable bets, or I was able to do this, the dice are in my favor.
It's
like,
corny.
It's just a bunch of gambling puns, and that's all it is with Lando. He's just one note. Whenever his comes up, that's all it is. And I think that's funny considering we never actually see him gamble in the movies. But like that's just his whole character.
I thought he was, to be clear, he's a smuggler himself, right?
He's a smuggler and he is a gambler. It's just funny that like that's part of his background. But I just think it's funny that that's all the writer associates with him when in the films themselves we never actually saw him do the act. You know what I mean?
But he is
a gambler, yeah. Yeah. When Luke enters Jabba's palace, I think it's interesting. Jabba says to him, "I was killing your kind back when being a Jedi meant something." It's like, ooh, that's kind of a diss.
I just can't tell if he like has Jedis to a high regard or he's like just straight up like against them.
He's saying that when he's saying you're nothing compared to the Jedi of past, and I was killing them. That's like what he's
Oh, that
saying.
didn't hit me.
I do like how Luke has matured here. The author writes it really well. So when he is fighting the Rancor, he's calling on Obi-Wan's wisdom. He's letting fear pass. He's keeping cool and calm. He's recognizing that the Rancor isn't evil. It's just a creature. It kind of shows like a more mature compared to like the first, movie slash book where he is just wide-eyed adventuring. There's some differences with the battle with the Rancor, or like some additions, like when the Rancor force comes in, Luke like force jumps up and he's like holding on to like the ceiling, and then he drops right on the Rancor's eye. After Han is freed and like they're about to be fed to the Sarlacc, that scene where Jabba's like, "Do you have any final words?" And Han's like, "You tell that slime-ridden filth, like, you'll get no satisfaction from us." It's kind of funny in here when he says that, because he's still like blind from the hibernation sickness. He's facing the wrong way when he's like saying that, so he's like looking at the wrong way, and then Chewie has to like turn him around.
It's like a blind dog like you dealt with in your childhood.
Yes, it is described that Luke made his lightsaber at Obi-Wan's house. So
House. Oh, that's right.
his little
signed a cave.
house thing. Yeah, he went back there, and that's where he made it. This is actually expanded on a novel later, Shadow of the Empire, which takes place in between episodes 5 and 6, and I think they show that there. But yeah, all the way back here, that's where he built his new lightsaber. So something that was really odd, throughout the whole book, there are no lightsaber colors mentioned. It's never mentioned what color Luke's lightsaber is. It's never mentioned what color Vader's is. It's just not touched at all. And I wonder if that's because it wasn't finalized yet, or maybe things were in motion and not around. Because you saw the cover, which is a poster, and that the lightsaber is blue, but Luke's lightsaber is green. And even in the early trailers and posters, his lightsaber is blue.
I recall it being blue. That's why when you said it's green, I was like, oh yeah, it was green.
It was green. Apparently, the story is that the blue didn't look good against the blue sky of Tatooine, so they had to change it to green. But there's also stories that they wanted to change it because that way the audience wouldn't be questioning why he has his lightsaber back, and after he lost it in the last movie. So if they made another color, it would be understanding. The audience would understand that this is a different one he made. So there's different stories.
But I don't think the color was probably prominent, like as to red for Sith, right? Like it wasn't specific red, and then all other colors were Jedi.
I don't know. It might have been associated at the time that there was only blue and red. We don't know.
So even green was like a new thing.
Oh yeah, it was a new thing.
Like Samuel L. Jackson's iconic purple and Ahsoka's colorless lightsaber.
Silver.
Is it silver?
Or white, yeah.
No pigment. Mm-hmm. That's what white is. So did you know that white weighs less than black paint because black paint has more pigments in it?
I didn't, but that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's pigment.
So then her lightsaber should be lighter. That's what you're saying.
Or
when Leia is killing Jabba and she's like choking him with the chain, it's implied that she's using the Force to help her in the strength. Like, not that she knows she is, but she's calling upon it, which is a nice little foreshadowing to the reveal later that she's Luke's sister. So he kind of plants little seeds like that. There's a part where Luke's fighting on the sail barge, and his hand gets shot, and he's like, ow, and then he like kills the guard, whatever, the lightsaber. But in the novel, his lightsaber actually, he loses it when his hand gets shot, and then he gets surrounded, and Leia gets on like a big gun, and she manages to shoot the guards surrounding him, and then the last two guards are there, and Luke calls a saber back to his hand, and he jumps, and the guards end up shooting each other. So it's a little bit more epic.
Yeah.
Than just, ow.
Probably choreography. There's some complications that could happen.
So there is a deleted scene that you can find online if you look it up, where after they leave Jabba, before they get back to their ships, they all get stuck in a sandstorm. And that's kind of like where Han is like thanking Luke for rescuing him and stuff. That was cut from the movie, but it is in here, like the little sandstorm scene. When you get some perspective of Emperor Palpatine later, he does talk, the author says like the Emperor, Vader obviously has his own plans with wanting to corrupt Luke, and Palpatine is described of having plans of his own, and it's described specifically plans of spiritual violation.
Ew.
Now, I'm pretty sure this is foreshadowing, like Palpatine wants to have Luke be with him and replace Vader, like, violate Luke's spirit, turn him evil. But I couldn't help but think that it's kind of an ironic, almost foreshadowing of his resurrection when Palpatine comes back to life later, and like whether it's Rise of Skywalker or in the old Legends comics Dark Empire, it's almost just kind of like a funny bit of accident. You could interpret it that way, spiritual violation, like he's trying to figure out how to come back from death. Yoda is back to being green in this book when we go back to Dagobah, which I was like, you know what, maybe you should have just kept continuity of the other book, just keep him blue, but whatever, he's green. Yoda does tell Luke, like when he's dying, and this was another deleted scene that you can kind of find online, it's in here, that Obi-Wan wanted to tell Luke that Vader was his father, but Yoda forbid him to do so because he didn't think he would be ready. I think that should have stayed in the film. I think because it is like, why didn't Obi-Wan tell him that from the beginning? And you could imply that.
Have you always questioned that?
It's not something I've super questioned, but I think it adds a lot of context. Like Yoda was like feeling like, no, he's not ready, don't tell him. I like the scene when Yoda dies, how it's played out, because he dies, it's kind of heartfelt, and then in the movie Luke is walking out, and that's when he talks with Obi-Wan's goat. He talks with Obi-Wan's goat, Obi-Wan's ghost. But here, after Yoda dies, Luke stays in the hut and he just stays alone in there for like an hour, even after the lights go out. He's just sitting there in the dark and he's just kind of contemplating the loss that he has of just not just Yoda, but like of his mentors in general, because Obi-Wan died. So it's a little bit more, Luke is hit a little bit harder and he kind of takes his time a bit more. So Obi-Wan, when he's talking to Luke and he's his ghost and he's telling him, yeah, Vader is your father, and he's telling the whole story, he describes a bit how he and Anakin fought, which isn't in the movie, and obviously we would never see until episode 3 came out years later. So Obi-Wan says, when I saw what had become of him, I tried to dissuade him, to draw him back from the dark side. We fought. Your father fell into a molten pit. When your father clawed his way out of that fiery pool, the change had been burned into him forever. He was Darth Vader without a trace of Anakin Skywalker, irredeemably dark, scarred, kept alive only by the machinery and his own black will. So this is the first time we get confirmation of why he's in the suit. It's the first little hint of what had happened in the past, that they had a fight at some sort of molten pit.
Based on what you've told me, I think that's like the most accurate description of like what seemed to be a solid prequel, like storyline.
Yeah.
Because I already immediately saw, oh, yeah, you!
It's that all the way back then he knew, and like that they fought in some sort of volcano molten something. I knew this fact before the prequels came out because I think I had the visual dictionary, and it says that in there Darth Vader got his injuries from falling in a volcano. So like I knew it was involved, but like all of those facts, they all ties back to this, which is cool. I don't know if this was something the author took from George's notes or if this was in the script originally, but I kind of almost feel like if it was in the script, it should have stayed. Hey guys, this is James from the future. I'm editing this episode and just wanted to jump in here because I actually ended up picking up the author's memoir, which is called My Jedi Memoir, A Double Life. He actually talks about where the backstory of Anakin, falling in the lava comes from. It was not in the script. It was just something that he asked George Lucas himself. And that was the story that George gave him. So he just incorporated that into the novelization himself. It was never something that was in the script to begin with. But just wanted to jump in and clarify that point. So when Obi-Wan brings up that Luke has a sister, Luke gets a brief flash of memory of his mother. And he remembers being in a chamber with his mother and someone else. And that's when he realizes that that someone else was Leia, his sister. And that's kind of how it floods into him. So Luke also has like a brief memory of his mom back before obviously we knew how that story played out, or how they were, probably before George Lucas even knew what that story was.
Padme.
Obi-Wan actually describes that, he says that when Vader left, he didn't know your mother was pregnant, and she and I knew we had to hide her children. So it's implied that Vader left Luke's mother while she was still alive, but didn't know she was pregnant.
It sounds not the full truth, but he did think, actually, you're right. He thought he killed her, or she died because of Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And when he did it, but back here, whenever George was describing his little thoughts on what he thought might have happened, it's the implication is that Darth Vader left Padme when she was alive. Like he chose to leave. versus the whole like dramatic thing that happens when the story gets told later. It's said that Padme, well, okay, not Padme, their mother, because they never name her, took Leia to Alderaan to be adopted. So she took Leia there, and Obi-Wan took Luke to Tatooine to be adopted by his brother Owen. So here's a big difference. Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, Uncle Owen is revealed to be Obi-Wan's brother.
In this version of the story.
Version. Now,
which also almost sounds like that could be more true than... What was it? What were they again?
They were Anakin's stepbrother.
See, nah, that doesn't align with me. Of like why they're close. Like,
I like it.
I like the uncle or him being the brother of Obi-Wan, because I can see why he's like, don't lift a lightsaber because his brother.
Mm-hmm. Like, keep him away from that life. Like,
yeah, your life.
So in the Reader's Companion, which I like to it has a lot of useful information on books and things. It said in there that this was dialogue that was excised from the script, which suggests that it was in the script and removed. But the author on other interviews has said that this was his idea.
Which are one of the things he said he can like chime in his own creativity.
Yeah, I think I kind of believe that a bit more, that it was probably the author's idea. He said he imagined that Owen was mad at Obi-Wan for leaving their family and farm for adventure and not staying with them to do like what the family does. But then he came back one day with this child and he felt like he couldn't say no to adopting this child.
I just got chills from that story, because then it's just more effective than being like, he is the no one talked about stepbrother of Anakin, and he's a stepbrother because I know his mom died.
Remarried, yeah.
Yeah, that seems too complicated of a tree. I would rather, and it has like more significance. Like, yeah, it makes sense still telling him don't pick up a lightsaber because my stepbrother, from my brother from another mother was a Jedi, and now you look at where he became. And like has like a fear, but yeah, that one seems more realistic.
I think Owen being the stepbrother of Anakin makes sense for the prequels, but before the prequels were a thing, I think this makes sense as a way to tie back to who Luke was adopted by. I think it works in just the context of the original trilogy.
Also, it would be more interesting of a story if they added that in Kenobi, if that was the case.
Actually, in Kenobi, there is a little line where Obi-Wan says, I think I remember I had a brother, but I don't remember much about him. So
I thought he was talking about Anakin.
No, he was talking about his own life. When Leia is asking him, like, did you have any family? He was taken young. There's a line in there where Obi-Wan says, I think I had a brother. I remember a baby, but I don't remember much. So I think that was a little kind of just like
homage.
Tribute. Yeah, homage. Yeah. Palpatine, and I don't remember actually if he was called Palpatine in this book or if it's just the Emperor. Because I feel like
either one works.
Well, I feel like Palpatine was only written in that beginning intro of the first book and wasn't used again for years. But either way, it is said that he was a senator who, through fraud, manipulation, and bribery, was able to make himself leader and then emperor. So that backstory tracks out with what happened later. We have Mon Mothma, who's the leader of the rebellion and stated to have been a senator in the Republic and secretly organized rebel cells that didn't know each other. That's still very much true. Like what we see in Rebels and Andor, that's following that exactly. So her backstory has stayed true throughout the years. So you know how Han always calls Leia like your worship? There's a little line where Leia calls, because after Han becomes a general and she calls Han your generalship, which I kind of like.
That's cute. That's a cute callback.
There's a deleted scene where Vader goes to confront an officer in and Palpatine's royal guards. He wants to go see Palpatine, but they're kind of like blocking the way. And they tell him like Palpatine's not seeing anyone right now. So then Vader like leaves. You can find it like online. Like I said, this was filmed and it's in here. And I can see why it was cut, because there's like, well, what's the point of this scene? The scene is I go to see the Emperor. Oh, I can't. And he just leaves. And then he comes back later. So I can see why they cut it. Like it makes no sense. I was gonna
say that would be effective, but you're right. He comes back later again.
Yeah,
like, it wouldn't make sense. It makes more sense if like he's constantly being turned away.
And there's something more going on.
Where basically he's just being shunned. I think we just saw a show or episode of something. Probably like Stargate, something similar.
Even in Young
Yeah.
Jedi Knights, remember Brackus? He kept trying to see the Emperor, and they wouldn't let him see him. He kept getting turned away, and then it's revealed in the end that he wasn't the real Emperor.
Young Jedi?
Young
Oh,
Jedi
yeah,
Knights.
yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of similar. That led to something, but yeah, this does nothing. So I can see why they cut it. Leia recalls that her mother was the Minister of Education on Alderaan. So she has a brief memory that her mom was the Minister of Education. So we don't know if in this original version was her mom always Alderaanian, or did she just become that after she took Leia there? We don't really know. It's like I said, it's not really described.
Well, it doesn't matter because that's not her mom.
No, she's talking about her birth mother. She has Leia. She has a memory that her birth mother.
Padme.
Yeah, was the Minister of Education, but not Padme because there's no name in this book. It's just her mother.
Oh, that's why I wasn't clear. Okay, because you keep on saying her mother. I'm like, why are you saying Padme?
Her mother, Padme hasn't been invented yet.
She wasn't conceptualized.
It's just their mother.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it seems like this original version, Vader leaves their mother. She's pregnant, and then she goes to Alderaan, becomes the Minister of Education, and then I guess dies at some point. All right, do you remember the scene where they're with the Ewoks and C-3PO is telling the story of everything that's happened, and he's like making little sound effects and giving a little show to the Ewoks, and then that's when they're like,
I remember.
You are now part of our tribe, and they're all celebrating. It goes on longer here, and it's just not that simple. Like after C-3PO tells the story, the Ewoks are like, okay, but what does that have to do with us? And so then Luke and Han and Leia, they all add their own little speeches to try to convince the Ewoks. And
hopefully he's translating.
Yeah, he's translating. And it's a great little scene, or it's a great addition, because Han is like, look, it's in your best self-interest to help us, but that's not why you should do it. I used to do things for my own interest, but now I do it for my friends, because they're your friends. And then Luke is like, look at the stars up there. They all have people on them, and they're beautiful, and you're a star that's part of that beauty, and the Empire is trying to turn out the lights.
Ooh.
And then Leia, who's been feeling kind of a oneness with the Ewoks in the forest, she just simply says, do it for the trees. That's all she says.
Do it for the trees.
And she feels like the Ewoks will understand that, and they do. And then Ewok Wicket, the main little Ewok,
the iconic guy.
Yeah, he gives this long, passionate speech where he's like, we should help them. They speak of a force that connects everything like a tree, even though we are separate leaves. We know of the spirit. They are leaf brothers. We should help them. And then that's when they agree and they become like part of the tribe. So it's a really good little extended sequence that I like. When they're celebrating that they're part of the tribe, Chewbacca has a grand old time with the Ewoks. They're eating meat together. They're getting into tickle fights with each other until they all get tired and then just pass out together. It's a little weird, but it's just...
Tickle fights.
They get into tickle fights.
What was his author thinking?
I don't know.
I hope this wasn't his edition.
The author, also the Ewoks are described here as teddy bears, looking like teddy bears.
Yeah, they give me teddy vibes.
Well, this is another case of an Earth term I don't think would be used now. Because I think teddy bears are named after Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh.
So I don't think you would say that now. But.
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt was not in Star Wars.
So you remember when the Ewok steals a little speeder bike, and he's like riding away and he's like flying off the handlebars to distract the stormtroopers? The author explains that the Ewok will pass the story down to his kids and grandkids of when he stole this, and every time the story gets passed down, the speeder gets faster and faster in each iteration of the story, which I just thought was cute.
That's a cute little add-on.
So when Luke confronts the Emperor with Darth Vader, the Emperor asks Luke, who trained you? And he guesses that it was Yoda. And that doesn't happen at all in the film. Yoda isn't mentioned by the Emperor, but the Emperor here is like, it was Yoda who trained you, wasn't it? And then he says something, which I don't think this was intentional, but I read it as the Emperor mocking Yoda, because he says, lives he still?
What an ass.
And I think you can say that in the way they portray the Emperor, but I am choosing to interpret that as him making fun of Yoda's speech.
Well, yeah.
Lives he still?
Lives he still?
Lives he still? There's another nice little thing where, or a nice little kind of story beat where the Emperor orders the leader of the Death Star 2 to destroy Endor if the shield generator is destroyed. So it's kind of similar to A New Hope, where it adds a time pressure. If they destroy the shield, Endor is going to blow up, which isn't in the movie, but I think it adds a nice little tension to the ending battles.
Endor, Endor?
Yes.
I keep on thinking of, I confuse it with Andor.
Oh, it's
but
similar.
That's the name, yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember when Luke grabs his lightsaber and he goes to strike the Emperor and Vader blocks it?
Yes.
The author gives a reason why Vader blocks it. So, because Vader wants to overthrow the Emperor with Luke. So why would he block it? You know what I mean? So Vader says he feels that if Luke kills the Emperor now, he would just go back to his friends. Like, he thinks that this wouldn't be enough to turn Luke evil. He would just kill the Emperor, be like, I saved the day, and just walk off. And Vader wants to turn Luke to the dark side fully. And that's why he interrupts. Yeah.
Well, oh, sorry. I'll let you continue on.
Well, I was just going to say, and maybe this is what you're asking, I don't think I agree with this interpretation with how Star Wars has played out since then. Because fans will sometimes argue with this, and also, like, you see this arguing in, like, Batman communities. Like, what if he just killed the Joker and stopped? You know, what if he did this one thing and then you just stopped for the rest? Like, you don't have to go full evil. You know what I mean? But I don't think the dark side works that way in Star Wars. I think it's kind of like I interpret it based on everything we see that happens and how far, like, Anakin goes in episode 3 after he turns. Like, I think the dark side is like a drug. I think once you use it, it's instantly like you've been on 10 years of cocaine. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I personally interpret it. In the scene where Luke is hiding from Darth Vader in their fight, and Vader's trying to look for him, and Luke is hiding, and he's like, I will not fight you. And he's like hiding. You know, like, that's all it is in the film. But in the book, Vader's like, there's no advantage to hiding. And then Luke's like, I'm not trying to get an advantage. I won't fight you. And he actually rolls out his lightsaber out into the open for Vader to pick up.
In the book, they wrote this in?
Yeah. He, like, rolls it out. And then
stupid.
When Vader puts it on his belt, and then when he gets Luke angry by saying, you know, like, the lines like, oh, maybe Leia will turn to the dark side, like, and he gets angry and he jumps out. Here he uses the Force, he calls it from Vader's belt, and then he lashes out with it. So it's a little different, but I kind of liked it.
Either one works, in my opinion.
When the Emperor is shooting Luke with lightning, Luke actually uses the Force to repel some of the bolts for a little bit before he gets overwhelmed. And I think that's really cool, because then years later we get to see Yoda do that in their fight. So that I wonder if George reused that, if this was an idea he had. I wonder if this was the author's idea. I don't know, but it's just cool that there was a little hints that this is something that could be done way back then. When Vader picks up the Emperor and kills him, throwing it off, we don't see any of Vader's perspective or thoughts. And I thought this would be the ideal opportunity. I wish we could have, like, seen what he was thinking in that scene, but the author doesn't go into it. It just happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hey guys, James from the future again. As I'm editing this episode, and this point I have about kind of feeling like it was a missed opportunity to not describe Darth Vader's thoughts as he threw the Emperor down the shaft in the end. There was nothing that could have been done about that, because to my great surprise, the script that James Kahn got, the script actually says that Luke is the one that throws the Emperor down the shaft. So Luke has, like, a moment of, like, vigor, and he leaps up, grabs the Emperor, and throws him down the shaft. And that's what was written in the novelization. It wasn't until it went to print that James Kahn saw it was changed to be Darth Vader. So he asked George Lucas about this later, and George just kind of gave him a coy response about always knowing what the ending was going to be. So it seems like it was a intentional misdirect, and they just corrected it quickly in post later. So there was never going to be a scene that James Kahn wrote where you get to see what Darth Vader was thinking, because he didn't even know that's what happened. So I thought that was very fascinating. Again, that comes from the author's memoir that I just finished reading recently. So the scene where Vader/Anakin is dying and Luke takes off his mask, it's really wonderfully written. And so I wanted to read just a part of that when Vader he's unmasked and he's dying. Just this little part where he's looking up at Luke and he says, "This boy had pulled him from the pit. Here now with this act, this boy was good. The boy was good, and the boy had come from him. So there must have been good in him too. He smiled up again at his son, and for the first time loved him, and for the first time in many long years loved himself again as well."
I'm gonna cry.
Isn't that really nice?
Loved himself again.
And it's interesting, like he talks about how the helmet is off and he's ashamed of his appearance and how he looks to Luke, like how kind of ugly he's become, and he's ashamed of his own appearance and he's like afraid of Luke looking at him. But then when Luke does, and he sees that Luke is like crying, he grabs Luke's like shoulder and he gives him the quote that Yoda told him in the last movie. He says, "Luminous beings we are, not this crude matter." And that's really nice. And he has this experience where all of a sudden his mask is off and he's like, I can hear things with my own ears again. And he's like, oh, I can smell things with my own nose again. And he takes this moment before he dies to just enjoy experiencing things through his own senses and not the suit for the first time in years. So that whole part is really well done. It's interesting too, it also says his face is pale from the lack of sun. So that's why he's so white.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Because yeah, he wasn't like super white in episode 3.
And James Earl Jones is black.
But yeah, when he has the helmet on, that makes sense why he would be so pale. But he also says, this is just a little, obviously like something that's rewritten later, but he also, Vader thinks to himself, I wish I had met Yoda.
Who said that?
Anakin Vader thinks that to himself. Like, I wish I could have met Yoda. So,
but he did.
Well, this is before the prequels are made. This is just a difference. This is just a difference in writing.
Okay.
So he wishes he could have met the Jedi who helped his son and helped him.
But yet he quoted him?
Well, yeah, maybe you could take that as like, maybe that's just a general Jedi quote. Not something from Yoda necessarily.
Okay.
But that's it for my thoughts on the differences of this. Or my, like, just things that popped out. Like, this is the best of the original trilogy novelizations. This is actually probably my favorite. If I had to rank the novelizations, like I haven't read episodes 1 and 2 yet, but if I had to rank them, it's episode 3 and then it's this one. This one was very good. It does have some of the same issues, so things do move quickly between scenes, so there's still not a lot of introspection compared to modern novels, but it's even more than the last one, so each book ramped it up a little bit more, and it's the closest to feeling like a modern novel. And obviously things move quick because you saw the page count. So
I was gonna say, I'm curious too. The reason why it's like so quick is probably because the time limit from novelization to the
that's true too.
Air.
Yeah, they're under pressure.
Yeah, it's more pressure. I've never heard of a book written, because the books I've read, if I doubt people can see any of the books, but majority of the books I read are usually standalones and they take their time. So knowing that these authors, we talk about the complexity or simplicity of various ones, how they're all different, and a lot of their writing styles are not the greatest in some aspects, right? But
you're right, they have to rush it.
Yeah, that's what I'm considering now as well, after having talked about all 3.
Yeah, like Spielberg told him for Poltergeist, I need this in a month.
I can't even, it's like SpongeBob. I'm SpongeBob writing the whole night.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, and you're writing all this stuff too, but it's within a span of a couple days. That's already something that started from an idea and now is conceptualized as like a community. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have any of this information or have any understanding of this information without these pillars of Star Wars. Sorry.
No, like, yeah.
And lore.
This book really, I think, expands on stuff in meaningful ways more than the others. Like, despite that time crunch, he got stuff in about Obi-Wan's background with his brother. We got to see a peek into Luke and Leia's mother. We got to see what happened to Vader. We get the whole like Ewok speech, and then the whole ending with when Vader dies, which is like the best part of the book, is written so well.
Who's the author again?
James Kahn.
James Kahn. I think you probably wrote the most emotional piece of work I've ever read, next to The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. It's something, I'm gonna cry, but it's just something that parents should be aware too, because a lot of parents, like, I know I've talked to so many people who are parents who like don't love themselves, but the moment their kid sees them, it's different. Oh my god.
Why read a novelization, right? All those like points I like did in the first episode, like Does this work as an alternative if you don't have access to the movie? Yes. Is this a
Yes.
good way to stay in the world, relive a story? Yes. See what character's thinking? I'm going to say yes. It's still not to most modern extents, but it's more and just enough, and it's done beautifully well to give you some good context. Providing more context on plot points, like yes. With the background information you get that's not in the film, to the battle with Endor being a little more risky, stuff like that. It expands the story. Early draft of the script, differences to see. I'm going to say yes. It's hard to tell what was in the script and what was the author's invention, but there's still enough differences there to like make that interesting. So
And
overall,
the author stated what was his.
he stated that like, yeah, George was a less constricting, or more constricting. So it's still, but there's still like his brother, it was apparently his idea. So, it's hard to say, but it's the best one of the three. And if there's one I'm going to recommend of all three, if you only pick one, it's this one. This was the best one.
I agree.
Especially if you're an Anakin fan. If you're like Anakin, you should read this just for how his story ends. But
I agree.
I am glad I did read these. My reason for reading these is this something that will be my replacement for Legends Star Wars? Like, I want something to, instead of watching the films, it's just all books. And could I read these in place? And yeah, I could. Even the first one, which is not the best written, I could read all three of these again. So, and yeah, I'm glad I did. I'm glad rereading the episode 3 novelization turned me on to these, and I got to give it a chance. Any final thoughts for you before we sign off?
I'm just gonna go cry in a corner thinking about that quote.
Well, that's it for the original trilogy novelizations. I'm still working through my backlog of Star Wars books. That includes the novelizations of episodes 1 and 2. So whenever I get to those, I'll do episodes of those as well. In the meantime, I'll just be doing more first readings for books that make sense. I'm also have a lot of High Republic books I need to catch up on. I'm not going to do first readings of those because I think it's weird to kind of start and the last half of the series.
Right.
But anything else I will be doing, and then once I'm done, I will get back to doing these a bit more regularly. I already know, I think, the main book I want to do when I get back to doing these regularly. But that's it for this episode and this trilogy. So have a good day and learn to love yourself.
Mom and dads, you're beautiful. The good ones.
Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Rogue Reader podcast. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, subscribe for more content, and share to any other Star Wars fans you think might also enjoy this content. Thank you very much.